All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Grecia, and I will be your moderator for this session. I'm here to support with you and the presenter. So please, when you get a chance, you can join us on social media through Instagram and Twitter. If you have any questions or need help with Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon at the bottom of your screen, find my name, and send a message directly to me. I will do my best to help you resolve your concerns. The title of this session is Increasing Engagement with Slides Add-Ons, and here is your presenter, Amanda.
Good morning, everyone. I could have you mute your microphone. That would be wonderful. Okay, good. I'm an administrator now, so I just muted everyone. If you need to unmute yourself, go ahead and do that and ask a question. My name is Amanda. I teach 5th grade at Eagle Canyon Elementary in Chino Hills. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Pear Deck. And I am in no way an expert on Pear Deck. I've just used it in my classroom and I love it. And so I'm sharing some of the things that I've done with you. And I'm excited to get started. So I'm going to share my screen. And we're actually going to be using Pear Deck through my presentation. So you're going to get to see what the students see, and then I'll also show you what it looks like on my end. So to join, you're going to go to joinpd.com, and then it'll ask you for a code, and it's FOJYH. Good. Lots of people are getting on. So your students would do the same exact thing in your classroom. You could have Join PD in your Google Classroom. You can give them the link to join, or I teach 5th grade. My kids just went to joinpd.com and would enter in the code. You know, if you had younger kids, I guess you would want to share the link with them, but let's see.
Hey, Sadie.
Okay, so it looks like we have quite a few people. So I'm going to start the class. At any point, if you didn't get to log on, at the top corner on the right, it always shows that join code. So if you have students that are having computer issues, and we all know sometimes logging into the computer can take forever, that little code stays on the top right there, so kids can join throughout. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little piece on the side that comes with the paid version of Pear Deck. And I don't have the paid version of Pear Deck, but they offer free trials all the time. It seems like constantly I'm getting a 30-day free trial of it. So I always take advantage of it. And I happened to log on a couple days ago and they offered me a free trial. So I'm showing you the paid version, but the free version has plenty of bells and whistles to go with it. So one of the cool things about the paid version is, I'm going to show you on my phone, I have the thing that's called Presenter View. And so what you can do with Presenter View is if you have your presentation going, I can control the presentation from my phone, which means I can be walking around the classroom, seeing what the kids are doing. I can choose which responses I want to show up on the board from my phone. So like I said, that's a paid version, and I don't have it normally, but I have it right now for 30 days. So if you have a question, it's really hard to read the chat while I'm talking. So if you have a question, if you can go to this Padlet and put your questions into there, I will go back and answer all the questions that I see there. But it's kind of hard to read the questions as they're coming through when I'm talking. So if you have a question that you really need answered right away, just unmute yourself and come on and ask it, or go to that Padlet. For those of you that don't know, if you have an iPhone, you can open your camera and just hold it in front of that QR and it'll take you to that website. Okay, so here we go. Why Pear Deck? I've had a lot of people ask me, well, why do you use it? Why don't you just use slides? And that's a really good question. One of the benefits to having a Pear Deck add-on onto it is it groups the answers that students are giving together. So when you have to go back and look at a slide deck that students have created, say you're doing a math slide deck, you have to go back and read every kid's slide deck to get those answers. But sometimes I just want to see, you know, for one or two questions, how they're responding in that moment. And this is a really quick and easy and fun interactive way for them to do that. The other question I get is, why didn't I choose Nearpod? And Nearpod is fantastic. It has tons of really cool things with it too, but my district has it blocked for right now as far as the slides add-on, and Pear Deck wasn't. So I went with Pear Deck. So you use what you have, right? Okay, so the first Pear Deck slide that I'm going to show you is, what is your position? And I see a lot of people are already responding. Let's see. And so from my phone, I just showed that to you guys, where normally the kids wouldn't see the results right away. Through the dashboard, I can make it so that you can see the results. So it looks like we have mostly K through 6 teachers. We have some middle school, we have some high school, and some admin. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. So the next slide is another Pear Deck template. And just to get a pulse of the room, how familiar are you with Pear Deck? There's a little icon at the bottom, and you can go ahead and drag that onto the screen of where you are in your understanding. Okay, good. So a lot of people have never used it. Some people in the middle, you've heard of it, maybe. All right, fantastic. Okay, so a lot of people have joined recently. And if you haven't gotten into the Pear Deck, you're going to go to joinpd.com and enter FOJYH. The really cool thing about it is, if you are just joining, it will take you right to the screen that we're on. So for younger grades, if they're not on right away, you don't have to worry about, what slide are you on? How do I get there? Where are you? It just takes them automatically into the slide that they're supposed to be on. And when I control it, I control when it moves. They can't be clicking around my slide or looking forward. And that's one of the biggest benefits. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna get into it. For those of you that haven't gotten the add-on yet, you're gonna open up a new slide. And I actually just learned this summer. If you type into your bar slides.new, it opens up a new slide deck. So go ahead and if you open up a slide, if you open up a new tab and do slides.new, It'll open up a new slide. You're going to go up here to Add-Ons. Click Get Add-Ons. See, I already have it, so that's why it's showing up on mine, but yours, you're going to do Get Add-Ons. And then it might show up on this front page. If it doesn't, you can just search for Pear Deck and then add it. It's going to ask you for permission, and you're going to want to say yes, allow it to have permission. And then once you have it in your add-ons, you're going to be able to go back up to add-ons, click Pear Deck, and then open Pear Deck add-on. And it'll bring up this little side menu for you. And then I'm going to give everybody just a second. Let me check the chat. So if you go back onto our Pear Deck, this is a really good screen for getting to see which kids understood what you were teaching. How are you? Rather than doing thumbs up, thumbs down, you can throw in this slide and the kids get to move their dot. Now, the cool thing is when I show the answers, or the responses, I guess, they're all anonymous. But later on, I get to go back and see who put their dot on where. So I could say, okay, great. Those of you that are in the green, fantastic. Go ahead and keep working. Those of you that have yellow, let's talk about some questions that you have. You know, where are we struggling? Where, you know, what can I work with you more on? And the kids that are in red, you know, you're going to pull them back for small group or more instruction. Okay, good. So a couple people are going to need help later. That's totally fine. We'll have time at the end to kind of play with it. So those of you that did get it, when you go to a new slide and you open up that add-on, this is where all the magic happens over here. There's a couple different options that you have. You have this template library, which are pre-made slides that you would add into your deck. And then these are questions that would go over an existing slide. So for example, when I asked you at the beginning what grade level you teach, that was one of the ones on the bottom that says ask students a question. So I just created a slide that said, what slide do you teach, or what grade do you teach? And then added that layer on top of it. So it was an already made slide that I added a question on top of. The template library is actually its own slide. So it wouldn't be one that you already have created. And that an example of that is the one right before this, where it has the 3 kids and the drag and drop. That's an example of one of the templates where that wasn't a slide that I created. It was just from the template library and I added it into my slide deck. So you have 2 kind of options. The benefit to using the pre-made ones is if you already have a slide deck already made or a PowerPoint that you can convert into slides very easily. You could just slide those templates in wherever you wanted to get a question in, and you wouldn't have to do very much tweaking. Another benefit to doing the kind of layer on top of it is if you already had slides made with questions in it, you could just put that layer on top of it, and now you have a spot for students to answer that goes right to you. So benefits to both. I use both of them in my classroom. And the pre-made ones, they just added some social emotional questions in there. So if you, you want to kind of get the pulse of how your kids are feeling, or, the big thing going around, I wish my teacher knew, or things like that, that you could put one of those social emotional questions up and have the kids respond to you. Oh, I got ahead of myself. So this is what I was saying. The ones on the top, those are the templates that you add in, and then the ones on the bottom are an overlay onto an existing slide. Okay, so go ahead and let's look at the template library. And if you downloaded the add-on, you're going to be able to look in the template library. They have beginning, they have during, and they have end. So let's just do during. These are all examples of slides that you could just very quickly add into a deck that you already have, and it would make it interactive. So you want students to summarize, you ask them true or false. This is that, how are you feeling? This would be a mind map. So if you're doing circle maps, if you're a thinking map district, you could use that real easy as a circle map. The drag and drop. All these are just ones that you, a stretch break, I haven't seen that one before, that you would just add into your already created slide deck or one that you're creating. Down here, as I was saying, they have the social emotional slides, bucket fillers, that's cool. So in your kind of clicking around, did you like anything that you saw? Slide that I did, this polling, is an example of one of the overlays that you put over an existing slide. So if you had a true or false question on a slide, you very easily just put that yes or no on top of it, and students can respond. So now here's a response question. I use this an awful lot in my classes because it's an easy way for me to kind of get their responses very quickly and put it on the board. And students love it because they get to see their answers up, and not every time do you get to call on every student. So they get really excited. You know, you can see them like, oh, that one's mine, when you put theirs.
I don't know. I did tab scissors to try to split my screen. And how do you get out of tab scissors? Now I don't know how to get it back to.
You have to glue.
I think you need to use tap blue.
You have to do tab glue.
Okay, so we have some people saying, I love the draw function. Absolutely, with younger kids, I would be all over the draw function. Or with math problems, definitely I have them draw it out, show their answers that way. And yeah, that they can type their answer. I love that too. All of them, social emotional, drawing, check for understanding. Good. Stretch break. I do too. I haven't seen that one before. I'm going to add that in. Critical thinking. Thumbs up. Yep. Very good. Multiple choice. Yeah, using them for exit tickets is awesome. Very easy. Okay. Those of you that are a little bit confused, there's going to be time at the end, and I will be more than happy to go slower through the templates with you. Okay, good. I'm glad that you guys are seeing things that you would like. So I'm going to show you now an example of something that I did in my classroom. And in this, my students were learning about the properties of multiplication. And that can be kind of a interesting lesson. So this is one that I showed my students. And so we did, we're not a one-to-one district. So I had my kids get into partners. I was doing this whole group, and then they were working with their partners when it was time for a response. And so we talked about the property. Then they had to give an example of, or why is that the associative property? Then we went through, why is it an example? And then these are the overlays, asking them the question, why, why is it that property? What number would go on that line? And can you identify what it is? And this was a multiple choice one. And like I said, students were working together, but they had so much fun working on this, and you would think, teaching properties of multiplication isn't necessarily a fun lesson, but they had a lot of fun doing it because they got to interact with it and talk to each other and share their thinking. And then at the end, I gave them a ABCD, how are you feeling? I got it, I don't understand, I need some more teaching. And it was a really fun way for them to interact with those 4 properties. Some cool features, this is obviously not all of them, but these are some that I have found very useful in teaching, is that you can lock the answers after a certain amount of time. So if I'm going through and sharing the answers, sometimes I like to lock the responses so that the kids don't keep changing their answers and, oh, I like that answer better, and they switch it. There is a time for that, but sometimes I want them to learn through their mistakes. So if I see something that I really want to highlight, I'll lock the answers. And then the kids can't, the screen is locked, they can't do any more answers, they can't keep drawing and playing, because they're kids, they're gonna draw hearts and flowers and stars and all the cute stuff on it. But at a certain point, you can stop and say, okay, we're done answering, now we're gonna look at responses. Another option you have is teacher paced or student paced. So the one that we're doing right now is teacher paced. That means that I control the slide. You can't go forward and backward in the presentation. Well, you can if you have my slide, but anyways, right now for the Pear Deck, you can't go forward and backward. You have to stay where we are, especially for younger kids. This is really, really good because like I said, if you join the presentation later, it brings you right to the slide that we're on in teacher paced. If you have kids that are not following along and you wanted them to change to the next slide, but they didn't, it did it automatically for them. So in student paced, I haven't used this a ton because I haven't necessarily had a need for it, but we will now with distance learning, is that students can work at their own pace. So they would be able to click through and answer their responses on their own time. There's an option for you to do student logins or not. So right now you're not logged in, your responses are just whatever shows up. But if you were collecting this as data in your class, then you would want to make sure that your kids log in. And the way you get to that is in that menu, right next to the start lesson is those 3 lines, that little hamburger. You're going to click that and it brings down this menu. And in that menu, it says require student logins. And then they would have to log in to respond to that. So for example, that lesson that I showed you, the math lesson, that the kids were working in partners, it was during direct instruction. I'm not going to go back and look at those results because I don't need to. I had it in the moment. I saw where the kids were at. They gave me their, how they were feeling. I used that information. I pulled them back right away and did reteaching. So I didn't have them log in, A, because they were doing it in partners, and B, because I don't need to go back and look at that information. It's done when I'm done teaching. And there are many times that I use it like that. If we're just doing it whole group, or we're doing something that I'm teaching them and I just want to use it for an interactive lesson, I'm not going to have them log in because I don't really need to have their responses later on. But if I'm doing partner work or if I'm doing independent work and I want to see what their individual response is, then I'm definitely going to have them log in so I know exactly who's doing what. Later on, you can, like I said, you can access the answers. In that hamburger menu again, it says review sessions, and that will take you to all the sessions that you have done. And then you can click on that restore and it brings back up the responses. You can also get it on the Pear Deck website. Okay, so this is another piece of Pear Deck that a lot of people don't know about. It is Flashcard Factory, and it is not on the add-on. It's actually on the website. And it's such a fun way to do vocabulary or really anything that you want them to understand. Any concept can be used for this. It doesn't just have to be vocabulary words. Like if I wanted to do it with the 4 properties, I could have done it with the 4 properties, had them do flashcards with each of the multiplication properties, and then they had to draw it. So they go into this little factory and they get split up into teams automatically, the orange team and the blue team, and they're given a word, and you actually put the definition into the flashcard. So when I set this up, you have to put the word in and you can put the definition, and then it goes to the students and they have to use it in a sentence, and they have to draw a picture for the word, whatever it is. And it's a competition because later on, how you can see how it says next phase is quality control. Then it goes to the teacher and you choose if it is correct or not. So if a student kind of misses the word a little bit, or the sentence doesn't really match, or there's an inappropriate drawing, you stamp it as this did not pass inspection, and it will give the point to the other team that got it. So it's really fun for them. It's a great way to review. We use the Wonders curriculum, and so we have the weekly vocabulary words, and I'm sure every program does, but I just get the list, put it in, the kids can do it. We do it as a center, so the kids in that center are working on it. It partners them up so that one kid is drawing and one kid is doing the sentence. And it is a ton of fun. The energy in the room is super full. The kids have a great time. So this is an example of one of my students for retrace. I'm trying to retrace my steps to find the toy. They have a picture of them thinking about where they went. This is a perfect example of retrace. So it got stamped the seal of quality. But you can see on the bottom, the other flashcards, some of them have a red stamp. And that means that it didn't pass the quality inspection. And the kids think it's hilarious. They have so much fun doing it. And then it goes off to be exported after you have chosen all the terms that you like, that the kids did well. It ships them off and you have a couple options. You can print it, or it used to export to Quizlet, but now it exports to GimKit, and I'm not familiar with that one, so I'm gonna have to play around with it. But when I went on to make this presentation, it said GimKit now. And anyways, so you have the cards later on. And if you save it, you can put it out through Google Classroom and the kids can use the flashcards to study whatever it is that you're working on. So in my research, I found this website that I think is excellent in explaining how to use Pear Deck. So if you go back, in a couple days and you're like, I can't remember what she said on how to do this, this website really breaks down how to get started, how to add the templates, and then also gives a couple of examples or ideas of how to use it in different classrooms. like different grade levels. Okay, so I'm gonna put up the Padlet again. So if you have questions, you can type it on to that, or like I said, you could unmute yourself and just jump on. I'm gonna look at the chat and see. Oh, GimKit is like Kahoot. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm gonna have to go check it out. Students do not need to add on Pear Deck. Just like you guys did joinpd.com, they would do that as well. And Pear Deck is only, the add-on is only used when you're creating your presentation. Once you're done creating your presentation and you present it, it's in its own house program. If you don't have the Pear Deck add-on, I am pretty sure you can still use Pear Deck vocabulary because that's on the actual website, the Pear Deck website. As far as if you can't use Pear Deck with slides, then I would suggest looking into Nearpod because Nearpod, you can do PowerPoints and PDFs as interactive presentations. You can also do slides, but if they have Pear Deck block, they might have Nearpod block too. So if you're looking for something similar to this, but you can't get Pear Deck, I would check out Nearpod because it has more online based. You don't have to necessarily download something to use it. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Padlet and see if there's any questions there. Okay. Pear Deck website can be uploaded to slides and then added to Google Classroom. There, when you first join, when you show the join code, which comes at the beginning, there's a link that says join presentation and that you can put into Google Classroom. All the features that I showed you are not premium. In fact, other than just controlling it with my phone, nothing that I showed you was premium. Some of the slides, some of the templates that they have are premium, and then some of the overlays are, but for the most part, everything that I showed you was not in the premium version. Student Pace is great for center work, absolutely. I use Nearpod. Do you feel like Pear Deck is similar? It's very similar to Nearpod. I said at the beginning that Nearpod add-on is not available in my district, so I started with Pear Deck. But I have used Nearpod because I had a PDF that I wanted to make interactive, and so I used Nearpod. But for the most part, most of my stuff is in slides, so it makes sense for me to use a Google add-on. When you're in present mode, do you have to go back and forth with the Pear Deck site? I'm assuming you mean the students. Whoever asked that question, if you want to unmute yourself and ask it, I want to make sure that I'm answering it the right way. Overlays, yes, I will show you the overlays. So this is the Pear Deck add-on. When you go to add-ons, Pear Deck open, it opens this little window on the side, and it will look like this. And down here where it says ask students a question, so let's say I wanted to do a multiple choice question. I would just click that, and it adds, gives me the options. So A is chocolate, B is vanilla, and C is strawberry. Then when I update it, see this little thing on the bottom down here? It says students choose an option. I'm gonna make sure to add here what kind of ice cream do you like best? Then when the kids see this in the presentation, they would see my slide that says, what kind of ice cream do you like best? And it would have the choices on the side. So that's how you do the overlay onto it. To then add a template in, you would want to.
Amanda, can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go for it.
I don't know if it's the same as that one person had, but we have to go back and forth. We're watching your slide presentation on one screen, and then when you asked us to answer a question, we had to go back to the other one. So that's what the students are going to have to do if we do this at home, not in the classroom.
If we do it digitally, yes, they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to go back from slide to slide. But in the classroom, that issue isn't there.
That would be the perfect way to do it.
It would be perfect, but really, if the kids don't necessarily need to see you, you know, even though they could hear your voice, if they don't need to see your face, they could have just that one slide, just the Pear Deck up and be responding to it, because essentially your presentation would be all they need to see.
As long as they're staying on the same slides as you're on.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Wouldn't
welcome. Thank you.
Wouldn't it make sense to have them have a split screen so they see like what your screen, like what the data is collected, and then their screen?
If they
That's
could
like
do
what
split
like-
screen, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So but I just want to I just need to like walk myself through this just
Sure,
to make
no
sure that I'm.
problem.
So you create your lesson, you have all of your slides ready to go. You push out the code to your class and they join Pear Deck with the code. But then everybody needs to be on Zoom or on Meet so that we can see everybody's stuff. And then we go through this synchronously. That's like what this would look like in distance learning.
That's absolutely one option. The other option is to do it asynchronously and have it student paced. But that, you know, so let's say you're doing a, you know, math practice and you want to get a math antics video to, you know, show them what they're doing. And then you want to do a couple practice problems. You don't need to be on for that. You could have that student paced. They watch the video, they respond to a couple questions, and then you collect that data. So doing this distance learning, it absolutely could be that you're pushing it out to them, you're attaching a practice video or something to reinforce the skill that you're teaching, and then you have a couple interactive slides after that. Or like if I was on with my students, they don't necessarily need to see my face if they just had the one screen open and I'm just using it to collect data and I don't necessarily want to show them the answers, I'm just using it for their responses, then they wouldn't have to be going back and forth because I don't need to show them their answers. Okay, thank you.
Amanda, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If you're creating slides like as a grade level, can one person put in all the Pear Deck add-ons and then it be used by the whole team, or would that like mess up the results? Does that make sense?
It saves the Pear Deck, it saves the add-ons into your presentation. So if I were to share a presentation with you that had Pear Deck, I'll show you what it would say to you. Okay, so this one is one that I did before. And at the first page, it has this little thing that says, hey, this is a Pear Deck lesson. This works great with Pear Deck. And so if you were to take this lesson from me and you had the Pear Deck add-on, it would tell you this. So I'm assuming if you were working on it with your team and sharing it, that it would keep the overlays on it. Did that answer your question?
I just wasn't sure if like if each teacher would have to have like a login code then, and it would be different? Or if
No,
each teacher would have to change the like the Pear Deck to their own
I would
account?
probably
Does that make
make a
sense?
copy of it so that you have your own students' answers,
Yeah,
because
Okay.
everybody would then have all the answers together. But if you share, like, so if one person was create or housed it and then everybody made a copy of it, then it would keep the Pear Deck in it.
okay.
If somebody doesn't have Pear Deck and they opened my presentation, it would still look like this. It just wouldn't have them an option to respond on it. So it does keep the slides in. Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
Does this work if you put videos into the slides? Are the kids able
Yes.
to watch the videos?
Yes, it works very well.
Awesome.
Yep.
I have a question.
Okay.
So if I made a slideshow, added the Pear Deck questions to it, and I wanted to present it to my students to work on it asynchronously,
Okay.
can I still push it out in presentation mode like I can do a regular slide deck? Is that how I do it?
Yes. So if you did presentation on it, I don't have a ton of experience with student paste.
Okay.
Just for the purpose that I used it in my classroom, I didn't necessarily use it, but I'm assuming that you would put up the presentation, but the student could move ahead if they wanted to move ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
We're not
So-
controlling their screen like
Right.
teacher mode.
Okay. And I mean, like when I push out a slideshow and I don't want them to see everything on the left-hand side, all the slides, I can push it out and presenter,
In
present.
presenter view, yes.
Yeah. So can I do that the same thing if it has Pear Deck on it? I can
Yes.
still, okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yep. If you have a slide and you don't want to do the Pear Deck version of it, you can still show it as a normal slide. It's still just a slide deck that you can do all the things that a slide would do.
But
Okay.
but would the Pear Deck question still work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Hi, Amanda. I have a quick
Hi.
question.
Sure.
I don't know if I missed this, but when we prepare a Pear Deck slide, you said students don't generally have to have this as an app extension. How would I generate the code so that they could log into the joinpd.com on the Teachers app?
It does it automatically for you. When you open up a Pear Deck and see how right here it says start lesson.
Yes.
If I were to start the lesson right now, it would generate this, well, hopefully. So then you get to choose student paste or instructor paste. So if I choose instructor paste, it gives this code automatically. And
Okay, perfect.
This is what you would show to your students. You would share your screen and show this right away.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, when I was looking, I was using my school email. It said that admin had disabled that, so I'm gonna contact them, and I'm sure if it's disabled for myself, it's disabled for the students.
I don't think, well, okay, so was your, the website was disabled or the add-on is disabled?
The add-on was disabled.
So the kids can still do it. They don't need the add-on.
Oh, okay, so it would just be on the teacher's end.
It's just on the teacher end. The
Okay, perfect, thank you.
one that needs the add-on, the kids go to Join PD and it's a separate website.
Sounds great, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, I think I missed some questions. Is there a way that your old account could be switched to a new? Veronica, I'm not quite sure what an old account and new account means. If you want to unmute yourself. Students need to log in with code each time. Yes, each time they have to have a code because that brings them onto that presentation. I know there are pre-made templates, but are there pre-made slide presentations? A lot of the slide decks that I have are slide presentations that I have found on the internet, and then I just quickly added some Pear Deck slides in. Pear Deck, I don't think has like a template library for pre-made presentations, but I could be wrong. But as far as finding slides, I have found plenty of slides on the internet, or even PowerPoint. You can convert a PowerPoint into slides very easy. Could teachers use Pear Deck to create parent questionnaires or surveys? You could. The results would be best if you had the paid version. And the reason I'm saying that is because in the paid version, they have something called takeaways, and that gives each response its own page of responses. Without the paid version, on the free version, it would get a little bit tricky because the responses wouldn't be all condensed like that. So I don't know if it would be wonderful in using parent questionnaires, but if you had the paid version, potentially. Let's see. For student paste, if you want to retain their answers, they will have to log in, and I give the code for them to do their tasks. For example, I want to assign homework and they can do it independently. Yes, if they have to do their homework, you're going to want to make sure to have them log in. Otherwise, your results will all be anonymous. So you're going to want to make sure that you click that students have to log in. Have you created any instructional videos on Pear Deck? I have not done any YouTube videos, but that's a good idea. Maybe I'll start. I'm almost positive the student paste is on the free version as well. Should we make a copy of our Google Slides if we are to add Pear Deck into it in case we want to keep an original free of Pear Deck add-on? That's up to you. If you are not going to be using it as a Pear Deck in the future or always, then I would probably make a copy of it and have one Pear Deck version and one regular version. That's a good question. I hope Pear Deck pays you something. Well, thank you. I'd love a free a paid lifetime version, Pear Deck. Pear Deck website can be uploaded to slides and then added to Google Classroom. Yes, that Join PD, you could have it in your Google Classroom. Absolutely. Okay, I think I got all the questions, but if I didn't, and you want to log on, unmute yourself real quick, then I'd be happy to answer more. Otherwise, that's all I have, and I appreciate you all being here so much, and thank you for giving your time. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your time. Okay, good. Oh, lots of thank yous. I'm looking in the chat now. So in Padlet, there's a question about Padlet. There's a plus sign at the bottom that you just click and then it lets you put a question in. It's kind of like a digital parking lot. Can you show an example of students' responses? Yeah, I could do that. Let me see. So these are my sessions. And I'll do,
Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you get a chance, also we'd like you to go into Sched and give us your feedback on all the sessions you've attended today. We would appreciate that. It helps us with planning and doing things next year. And if you have time today, there's this lunchtime equity series that will be going on during lunch. And again, thank you for joining us, everyone.
so this was a presentation that we did on point of view. So we watched this video and then they had to respond how they knew that it was, what point of view it was from. And then these were some of the responses that they gave.
Hey, Amanda.
Hi. Oh, is
Hi,
it?
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. And we want to encourage you to please provide a feedback. You can do this by going to Sched. And then again, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.